Okay, to preface this video, I have a cut on my tongue, so my talking is going to be a little bit funky because I'm trying to avoid this cut and it hurts sometimes, but I'm still gonna yap because that's what I like. As I have never really been a part of the art community or online in social media or anything, I've just been, sticking to myself. But as I interacted more and more with the art community or with, younger artists, I'm realizing that a lot of them who are less experienced, they don't know how to use references. And it's not really their fault because no one really teaches it or shows it until you actually start working in the art industry that, okay, this is how you're supposed to actually use reference. So like most beginners or less experienced artists, they'll use references just by like browsing Pinterest a few minutes and picking up things that they like. Like you see videos of people like, oh my gosh, I'm doom scrolling Pinterest for 7 hours and creating Pinterest boards or whatever. I'm like, okay, I think that there's a skill to be learned on how to find references and how to use them. So I'm gonna go over both. And because, for example, like people at like Riot Games or other video game companies, they'll spend a whole week, we'll spend the whole weeks just researching and finding out references and how, things look before we go pen to paper. And you may hear that and go like, what are we even looking for? Where do you look? And I'm going to try to explain it to the best of my ability and also to the best of my knowledge right now and how I personally use references. So you see here in this background drawing, I decided it's like, okay, let's do like a little character design challenge thing where I have randomly generated 3 words. It was electricity, rabbit, and rain are my 3 up here. Electricity, rabbit, and rain. And I'm gonna tell you right now, I was not successful. I don't like it. I don't like the end result, but it's fine. It was done in like 3 hours, less than 3 hours. So how do you find references? Maybe I'll use Pinterest once, but like I never really use Pinterest, mainly because of all the AI that's out right now. AI basically made searching online like super difficult and hard to find good stuff. So my main thing is that I'm using books and also movies and TV show screenshots, and then sometimes Google Images or Wikipedia or museum websites for like real life historical stuff. So let's first go over books. That's my main resource, and I know that books are expensive, but I have my little library, a collection of physical books, art books, and like drawing books from people that I like. And I also have a big folder of PDFs, and you can procure these PDFs however you want. There's a bunch of different ways, but being able to slowly build up a library and collect books can be really helpful. It can be long lasting, and it's something that you can, have with you when the AI takes over. But also making sure that these books that you get are from artists that you personally enjoy and or from, IPs that you like, and not also, because they can also be infected with AI. So make sure you're getting good stuff and not stuff that you find off of like TikTok shop for like $7 or whatever. Like don't do that. For movies and TV, I came from a film background in like university and post-university. I was in like, like Disney and Universal and whatever, and Hollywood, whatever. And so I have a big movie library in like my head, and also like resources wise. So I have a bunch of stuff for live action, and also now I'm building up a lot of animation resources. So you can get movies and TV shows and stuff. I download them and then I'll go through and take screenshots of a bunch of stuff, and then I have like my big library that way. There's a lot of ways to do that. I'm gonna leave that up to you on how to do that, but good websites that I really like is Film Grab for live action, for cinematography, lighting, live action people. And then Animation Screen Caps has good screenshots of movies, but it's kind of like you gotta sift through thousands of images. I kind of just like downloading anime or whatever and then taking screenshots that way. But you can find your own methods on how to do that, but that's just one resource that I will use a lot and I recommend people using is to look at movies and TV shows. The last idea is going to be Google Images. For the Google Images, I just stick to real life photography or photos or websites. Like I said, like Wikipedia is really good. If you go into Wikipedia and then there's like a whole image gallery, you can, you know, do your research, read about it, and also go through some, you know, better vetted images that are less likely AI. I'm also like museums and stuff like that, museum websites, art gallery websites, but you have to be careful because more and more AI is getting into those. So that's why I mainly just stick to books and I stick to movies and TV shows. The last thing that I want to add on to like how to find references is buying reference packs. They're like $5 to $7. You can get them on ArtStation or you can get them at Proco.com, right? Model packs where you have professional photographers taking, and it's like thousands of pictures for some money. I bought a few throughout the years, and I have like a file on my computer, a folder on my computer that's like 40,000, you know, like high-res images of different models and different angles and all that kind of fun stuff, doing different things. So build up your own hard drive of images of stuff. So I have like 2 terabytes SSD on my computer with art books, movies, TV shows, screenshots, thousands and thousands of screenshots, and then even more, you know, real life, you know, photo packs that I buy and whatever. So that's how you get references. Now, how do you actually use the reference? So basically the through line is that you need to have a lot of references, and you also need to only use a few. Don't have too much. You want to have enough references for each aspect of the drawing, and I'll go over the aspects later, but you don't want to have too many references so that it's like overwhelming you or distracting you from like the overall thing. And that's actually really funny because this is an issue that I did with this one. So this drawing here, it was right back here. This was my mistake. My references. So I have my 3 parts, right? My 3 references right here. Energy Rain Rabbit. I have a good amount of references here. I think for some of them I have too many references, but it's sort of like just an exploration of ideas. So I'm not going to be using all of them. But my issue is I decided for some reason to try to add in another aspect, which is like I was looking at Burmese culture, their architecture and things, and I was like, ooh, that's some cool shape language. I want to include it. Bad idea. Especially if I'm, you know, only doing this in like a few hours. It's too much stuff. A hat on a hat on a hat. It's just adding so much things that I'm losing the original idea. And you'll see it in the end that I kind of, you know, I lost some of the things that I was trying to do in the beginning. So this is an example of me going too overboard and using too much reference, which I understand that it can actually be a reverse problem for people, because a lot of times when I'll see like younger artists, they don't look up references. They'll be like, oh, like this drawing is a little weird, like what's wrong with it? And when I'm doing paint overs or whatever, it's like, what reference did you use? And they don't have any references or whatever. I'm like, that's your issue. So you have sort of 2 sides of the issue. One is that people don't use references when they should, and then you have sort of almost on my end of the spectrum where it's like I'm using too much references. So just make sure you're in a good, healthy balance, and that the references you're using, one, do not overwhelm you or do not distract you, and also your references that you're using is like you have a specific purpose for them. And I want to go over the aspects of references right now. So typically the aspects for references that I have is basically going to be some of these main ones. So let's write an aspects of references, right? Big ones would be pose or like the figure. So this is going to be more if you're doing a person, right? More specifically to people, because that's what I'm sort of specializing in. For then after the pose, I would do lighting would be one, but the lighting would be like a sub pose. A lot of the time, if you have good references from those like good pose packs from people, which I have, there's really good lighting in them if it's done in like a professional studio, professional photographer or whatever. So I can use a lot of the lighting from the pose packs. But if you have bad references, like a bad pose that you just find somewhere but you really like the pose and you want to use it, then it's good to have a separate lighting pose or a lighting reference just so that you can see how it goes. And then I think the other part is just design references. So this can be for like how you want to render, like if you want to render like a specific artist, clothing, shape, all that fun stuff. Those are like your main ideas, and you always want to break it down and find references for specific things. So this is going to go a little bit off topic, but I do want to mention this now, is that you don't just want to use one reference for the entire drawing. You want to mix and match references, and you also want to be looking for references almost throughout the drawing process. As you're drawing something and you get to this hand, and you'll see that when I go back, I started searching up and looking for references in the middle of it because I couldn't find the hand. And I took my picture of my own reference of my own hand in order to figure out how I want to place this hand specifically. This is all just to say that you should be searching for references throughout, and if you have an issue, it's like, oh man, this arm looks a little weird, just look up arm references and look up arm anatomy, which actually leads me to the next point, which is that people are too tied to their reference, or they're too limited by their reference. This is mainly for the less experienced people. For those who are less experienced in fundamentals, in their drawing fundamentals, the issue I see is that they are trying to find references that fit exactly what they're drawing, and that's hard. And don't do that. Or if you happen to find something like that, then that's perfect. But if you are trying to find a reference that's, yeah, I want something in this exact angle, the best, smoothest way is just to take a picture of it yourself, like how I did with the hand. I took a picture of my own hand. But I think the point is that I'm trying to make is that you should use your reference more freely. And I think I can explain it better through drawing. Say you want to do a pose like this one, right? Where it's like neck, then chest, like this, right? And the other leg, I don't see it, but I'm gonna make it up. It's like this, right? Then the arm, like this, right? You're like, oh wow, this is a cool pose, but I don't like this angle. You should develop the ability to be able to rotate the pose like so, however you wish, to be able to break down the pose in simple shapes and be able to find ways to rotate them on the page, right? And say it's like, okay, now I want it on this angle. Cool. How do you do that, right? So you don't want to be a slave to reference. You want to be able to use references like this. You need fundamentals. I know fundamentals are coming back. It's the problem that never goes away. You always need fundamentals. And what fundamentals do you need for this? You need simple forms. You need to be able to draw solidly, solid drawing, shape, form manipulation, perspective. And if you're drawing any human being, you need to have anatomy knowledge. I know. How does this apply in a practical drawing? So for example, I have this pose right here. This arm is down. I want this arm to be up like this. How do I do that? Oh no, I don't have the capacity to imagine it and do it on my own. So I'm gonna look up reference. Okay, I need to look up a reference where it's a 3/4 view from this angle and the arm is raised up like this. That's way too specific. What I would do is just look up like arm raised or arm anatomy or arm raised anatomy. And a lot of the time you may find a pose that's like a real life image or something of something like this, right? Like someone raising their arm and you see like the armpit or something like that, right? And it might even be in a completely different angle and you'll be like, oh, this is so good, but I know I need to it's not gonna fit here. It doesn't match. Wrong. You can still use this and just apply it over. So this is where the skills of simplification and shape manipulation come into play. We already know that the torso, it can be simplified into like a square or like an egg shape. The shoulder can be a ball, and then the arm is a cylinder. We see that in here. That's how we construct them. And then we also know some anatomy, or I assume we know some anatomy of how the pectoralis major attaches to the humerus up here. We have the biceps coming out, biceps brachii. We have the coracobrachialis in the middle. We have the teres major and the latissimus dorsi coming in like that, right? Sandwiching it. That's how the armpit is being built. We kind of understand all of this now. Now we just need to apply it for here. So if we're going to draw the arm raised, we first can start from the beginning by putting in, the angle, the egg shape. Here's the shoulder. the arm is being raised, so that means I want to put the cylinder up here rather than down here. And then now we can work on some of the smaller forms where it's pectoralis major, wraps up, cylinder. We have biceps coming down here. They don't have to be pronounced. We have, what is this, teres major on the latissimus dorsi, and then we have the little coracobrachialis right in here. And then we can maybe go like elbow, and then maybe I want the arm to go this way. Boom, cool. Now we have the arm like so, right? And then I just put the arm up using reference from something like this is supposedly like a reference picture, reference anatomy reference or something. And then you'll be able to rotate it and put it in a way that makes sense. That's the general idea of how we can be free from our reference. So to recap, we don't want to be a slave to reference. So we want to have the foundational drawing knowledge to be able to break down references into simple shapes and move them however we want to. You also want to have references for specific aspects of your drawing. Rather than just having one big reference for everything, you look up smaller references for specific parts and how to design the parts. So in my case here I was using this reference mainly for line style and for like mech design shapes like this. Those were my main reasons for the reference, and then I had other references for other things. So you find references for specific aspects, as in like the pose, the lighting, the hair, the shape language, or how things look, and then have the fundamental skills to manipulate that reference to how you want it to be. It's basically a stat check. If you want to use references well, you gotta get your stats up so that you can pass the stat check and be able to use them in an effective way. Moving on, the next concept that I want to go over is how to use references specifically for rendering. It was only taught to me by my mentor TB Choi back in the day, and I was so bad at rendering that she was like, okay, this is beginner mode, you gotta do it this way and please get good. And I was like, okay, I'm sorry, I'm gonna get good, and I'm still not that good. So how do you actually render or use references for rendering? And this kind of goes against everything that I was talking about before, where it was like, oh, don't be a slave to the reference. In this case, be a slave to the reference. Basically, the way you use references to render, or like the most straightforward way and a way for you to learn, is to cut out the reference like this and have it exactly next to what it is that you're rendering and copy it exactly. Not copy the reference exactly, but copy how it's done exactly. Find an artist or some art style that you enjoy and follow that and have it super duper close up. So you can see in my example here, this isn't the best example because I didn't really, like the rendering style is a little bit different, but you just have it so that it's right next to it and that you're able to sort of mimic one-to-one, almost like a master copy. And that's how you can learn the techniques, and that's how you can learn the style, and that's how you can learn how to make it look kind of professional like. And even though this is specifically for rendering, you can use it for other stuff like lighting and clothes and hair, and using reference mood boards and things like that so that you can see the image really big can help as well. But I also just like cutting it out and putting it right there. So to wrap it all up, I want to go over my feelings towards this. I'm gonna go over like my issues with it, so hopefully it can be like a semi-educational in some ways. Like I said, the prompt was random word generator spit out energy rain rabbit. Energy got lost in this. That's the issue, mainly because I was super distracted by I had too much reference. I was trying to bring in this extra concept of Burmese architecture and clothing and stuff like that. Completely messed it up, and then I completely forgot about the whole electricity thing. I think that the only bit of electricity that I see that kind of made it through in the end was more of like the cybernetic mechanical mech style thing that's like electricity, but the color I think is kind of nasty. I don't really like my color choices. I'm like, I don't know, I'm not colorblind, but I feel like I'm color stupid, so I'm not good with color, but that's fine. For the color and for some of the shape language, I wanted to go for the rain jacket vibes. And then lastly was rabbit. My issue with this design as a whole is that it feels jumbled and it feels like parts were just sort of stitched on rather than the design being meshed with the character, if that makes any sense. It's like a costume. It's like someone's wearing a costume, which I don't really like. So I have the raincoat, and then the ears for the rabbit, which is all pretty like stuck on, like a costume. I did try to do the shape language of like a hood or like an umbrella shape language by giving protection from rain, which I feel like is a little bit, I feel like it could have been done better, but this isn't the worst thing. I do kind of like the feet for the rabbit and also this part here. These parts just seem a little simple, but I think that's just part of, I was excusing it for time and for style reasons. I think the worst defender is the rabbit. I completely forgot about the rabbit idea until when it was too late. So I just sort of stuck on some rabbit ears and like white and red, just to try to sell the rabbit. I think that one thing that's helpful is the leg to torso ratio. And then the thing with the ears is that someone mentioned that they're like moth ears, and I completely agree. I was trying to go for floppy ears, but I think that my lack of rendering in that area was just, I switched it over to more rabbit T ears like these. So this is more, this is the final. I think the rabbit came through a little bit better with the up ears now. Still, I rate this as like a C grade. But anyway, that's not really, this is more about design rather than referencing. But so on the topic of referencing, hopefully, use more reference. And if you're using reference already, use less reference. What part of the reference do you like? Take that part out and put it right next to whatever part of the drawing that you want to have that idea in, and copy. Use the parts and really break it down. That's how you use reference. And also use fundamentals. Learn fundamentals. Improve fundamentals.